It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Apple's made its big announcement. We'll talk about the new iPhone 4S and what it means to you next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 267, recorded October 4th, 2011. S is for Squirrel. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Today's mobile world makes easy-to-use collaboration software more than nice to have. It's a necessity. For your free 30-day trial, visit GoToMeeting.com and use the offer code MacBreak. And by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers the latest Mac news, and today there's in fact Mac news. Well, no, there isn't. I'm sorry. I take it back. There's iOS news. Joining us right now, we just got off our live coverage of the Apple event in Cupertino. Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times. Hi, Andy.
Hello, Leo.
Not at the Apple event, but in his home, comfortably ensconced.
Oh, so jealous.
That voice is Ryan Block, who is in fact in Cupertino.
I think I'm going to have another sip of my delicious, cool, refreshing, caffeinated beverage, which I have plenty of access to because I'm near my fridge.
Andy, tell me if they've ever done this at an event that you've been to. They had a full breakfast buffet here, like omelets, everything. They've never done that.
I think they do that when you're in Cupertino. They do that. Right?
I've never seen them do that in Cupertino. They were like freaking out. Everybody I talked to at Apple was like, go have the breakfast, go have the breakfast.
Usually it's pastries, coffee, and juice.
Exactly. It's like continental breakfast.
I remember eggs at one Apple event, but I can't remember the original iPad event at Moscone.
Tim Cook is clearly a breakfast man.
It's good when you don't have a vegetarian as the CEO anymore. It's only bacon, ham steaks, link sausage, patty sausage.
That's a good point. That's an excellent point. You would have never had eggs with Steve Jobs there. Ryan, of course, with GDGTgadget.com. Reviews from people who actually know. And we also have, of course, Lindsay here from the Pixel Corps. So, Ryan, we're going to go right to you because you are on site. First of all, what's your basic sense of the event as a whole?
Yeah, I'm actually still on site. You want me to turn the camera around?
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Ladies and gentlemen, one infinite loop. We give you the Apple stage. About 350 people in there. It was not a huge venue.
No, it's not. It's the Apple Town Hall. This is definitely an intimate venue, so it's pretty tight quarters. This is where they do some internal meetings. This is where Steve Jobs, loved to trash on Android. They've done a number of product announcements here. So you come down to the campus. Security was actually really tight this time, which is kind of surprising because it's the Apple campus. There's not a whole lot going on here other than this today.
So what's your feeling? I mean, what was the feeling in the room like? Tim Cook, of course, on stage instead of Steve Jobs. Phil Schiller, Eddie Q all took the stage to talk about their various areas. Tim
was not on stage a ton. He was really kind of there towards the beginning and the end. Most of it was Scott Forstall and Phil Schiller. And Phil actually was the person who announced the 4GS. So Tim kind of got to tee it up and cap it off, but he did not have a huge or imposing presence on this first keynote of his.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure how that kind of came off outside. I mean, to me, it felt like he was ready to kind of give credit where it was due, and he wasn't trying to fill.
Oh, and we just lost him. Unfortunately, he's on FaceTime. From Cupertino, and as you might imagine, there are a few people using their iPhones there right now. Although Apple has its own AT&T cell site on campus, and usually gets pretty good reception there. We'll see if we can get Ryan back on. I have to say, as we sat through that announcement, it was an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. Most of it, the traditional recap of how the stores are doing, how sales are, and really very little new stuff to announce. There's Ryan. I was just saying, it seemed, and I was watching Twitter.
I don't know what happened.
No, it's what happened is what always happens. It's fine. we'll just keep calling you back. I was just saying that at least watching Twitter and our chat room reaction and our own reaction here in studio, it was an announcement that didn't seem to have a lot of excitement around it.
Yeah, I'm gonna move to see if I can get a little bit better on the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree. It was pretty muted announcement. I mean, you know, didn't feel a whole lot different from when Apple launched the 3GS, because obviously they're building on an existing product. So, you know, there's no new form factor. There wasn't anything there that really felt like it was going to fundamentally change the iPhone experience. Some really, really cool new stuff. I mean, the Siri integration, I think a lot of people were wondering what was going to happen when they acquired Siri, and now we kind of know how that turned out. But, I mean, you know, in terms of the phone, if you've played with an iPhone 4, you know, it's going to feel a lot like that, you know, as the iPhone 3GS felt to the iPhone 3G. You know, it's a...
And down he goes again. Oh, I spoke too soon. Did they have, Ryan, did they have a demo area? Any way, apparently not. Any way for you to see or try any of this stuff? Can you hear me, Ryan?
No, they didn't. Everything that they were showing was...
Just like that. And now you know why they ask you to turn off your devices when you go to an Apple event. Andy, what was your overall feeling about this announcement?
I think it was, even if they had gotten the Yerba Buena Center, I think they actually improved the show by taking it to the campus, by making it small. There wasn't any one thing that really was a smashing demo, an actual game-changing demo. Siri obviously was the big deal, but it's not something that phone users are unfamiliar with. It's certainly not the sort of thing that people in that room, the journalists, would have been unfamiliar with. So I think that had they decided to get out the dog and the pony for this one, there would have been kind of a set of a letdown. I think that the 4S is a nice phone. If I were nearing the end of my contract, I'd be tempted to pop a few $100 to replace my iPhone 4. I think that, only speaking as a consumer, I'm not really motivated to switch right now, given that my current iPhone is only about a year and a couple months old. But a great update, and if iCloud really pays off, then that's going to be a good leveler for everybody. I think it's just great to know that we now have a date for when iCloud is going to go live, when iOS 5 is going to go live, because both of those things are going to be free for everybody.
We'll give you one more chance, Ryan, and we won't bother calling you back again. But any thoughts at all about all of this? Ryan Block from Gadget.com.
I think I just heard Andy saying that, you know, it was great to have some dates associated with these things. I totally agree. I mean, I think we've all been kind of waiting for a while for iOS 5 at this point, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the announcement, I don't think anybody's minds were completely blown. I mean, in terms of, you know, voice dictation features and Siri-like functionality, I mean, some of that stuff has been in Android for a while now, so I think that there's a level of familiarity with what's currently already on the market. I think that they moved the ball forward for them, but I don't know if they've fundamentally changed the smartphone market this year.
Any Q&A after the announcement, or was it that's it and bye-bye?
It was that's it and bye-bye this time. Tim, Phil, Eddie, all those guys did not get up on stage to answer questions, so I think they hoped that they had kind of gotten everything out that they needed to.
Was there a demo area?
There's not. There was some private briefings, and I think they only showed it to a couple of people, which I actually found a little bit surprising because the phone's going to be out in a week,
right?
Or, you know, a few days, and then, you know, or I'm sorry, it's up on pre-order in a few days, and then it's out in, you know, a couple weeks. But yeah, no, they didn't have a demo area, which I was actually expecting, especially because this is, you know, an upgraded iPhone 4. Basically, it's not radically different hardware that's launching in a couple of months.
Ryan, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. GDGT.com for full coverage on the iPhone 4S. Ryan Block, thanks.
Thanks, Leo. I appreciate you bearing with me.
No, that's fine. We're glad we could talk to you there. Yeah, you have to say, I think in hindsight, that probably, as you were kind of implying, Andy, it was good they didn't have Moscone Center. It wasn't a big announcement. It was just kind of an incremental improvement. Apple, you and I were talking in the men's room before the show, and I think
I wasn't going to mention that.
We both agreed, though, that Apple's, and this is what they've done the last few times. They did with the iPad 2 announcement. They're just doing the minimum to get you to upgrade.
Well, and someone asked me before the announcement, they asked me 2 days ago, so what would it take for you to buy a new phone? And I said, well, voice activation, faster processor, and a camera, and an 8 megabyte camera. So they hit exactly what the minimum requirement. Minimum. Like, I'm not running, I'm not excited, but I'm like, well, it's enough for me to upgrade and want to play with it.
Do you think it's telling that? Do you think it's telling that they said that Siri was beta? That's not even the finished version of Siri?
Yeah, isn't that unusual for them to be showing off anything that they're not willing to? If they're usually they would avoid words like that. There would be an implication that this is shipping in 10 days and maybe this is not the finished thing, but they would let people sort of guess that. They wouldn't say, "Oh, we're showing you something that isn't really finished yet." And boy, you're not going to, if you work at Apple, you're not going to be seeing much of your spouses or children over the next 10 days because we have to make sure that that button actually does something when you press it, and we don't think that it'll actually do anything right now. So
the only thing I'll say is that in the defense of that is for calling Siri beta, is pretty close to rocket
thing
science.
to do.
But it's a very, voice recognition
because
is
it's so
complicated.
Because it's server focused.
Well, it's just so complicated. Getting. It's easy to get basic commands down with voice activation, but doing what they're talking about here, where you're doing dictation, where you're doing things, it's not going to work perfectly. It's just that technology is
then
still.
Why
growing.
ship it?
Well, because I think you have to. I think that it is.
That's not the app, as Andy said. That's not the Apple way.
But this is why you ship it.
Android.
The Android is that it is amazing. If I can say, drive to blah, and bam, it's correct. It was correct. I did like 5 or 6 tests, as soon as I got this, and it's correct every single time.
Here's the video on the Apple site, which has, by the way, been up and down all morning, and it's not looking good. But I was able to get this video. It's a 5-minute video. I won't play the whole thing, but just here's a little bit of how Apple is positioning the iPhone 4S.
iPhone 4 was groundbreaking. It's one of the best products we've ever designed, and it's gone on to become the #1 smartphone in the world. So we had this challenge. How do you improve on something that's so extraordinary?
That's Jaws, by the way.
With iPhone 4S, we did exactly
Good
that.
product guy.
By taking this amazing design and completely rethinking the inside. We started by adding the dual-core A5 chip, which is up to twice as fast. Then we completely redesigned the camera, which not only has 8 megapixels,
strikes me
all new.
They could have just shown this video and saved us all a lot of time.
iOS 5 with over 200 new features and iCloud. And now we're introducing Siri.
How can I help you?
Siri is a whole new way of interacting with your iPhone using just your voice.
Find me an Italian restaurant in North Beach.
Okay, these 25 Italian restaurants are in North Beach.
It's like this amazing assistant that listens to you, understands you, can answer your questions, and can even accomplish tasks for you.
Move my meeting with Kelly Alltech to 12.
Note that you already have a meeting about budgets at 12 p.m. Shall I schedule this anyway?
Move it to 2.
A lot of devices can recognize the words you say, but the ability to understand what you mean and act on it, that's the breakthrough with Siri.
Read me my text.
New message from Tony Rivas. Are you going to the party?
Reply. Yeah, I'll meet you there. Remind me to grab the present when I get home.
Here's your reminder for when you get home.
It completely changes the way you think about what a phone can do for you.
One of the biggest advances for the iPhone 4S is in its performance. It uses the same powerful dual-core A5 chip that's in iPad 2. With 2 processors handling the workload, it really makes a big difference. Apps will launch and run faster. Graphics can render up to 7 times quicker, making gameplay a lot better. And in Safari, web pages will load up to twice as fast. And it's the world's first phone to intelligently switch between 2 antennas to transmit and receive calls.
Is that a response to the CDMA issue of not being able to do data at the same time as it's making calls?
Yeah, that would. Well, it's. I think it's a dual-edged thing. It's a response to the CDMA limitation, and it's also
Squirrel.
Quiet.
I'm sorry.
See, Tim, you're not the only one who can take pictures of squirrels, you know. Mr. Fancy Pants got the old phone to take pictures of a damn squirrel.
I'll continue on. This is actually I'm saying they should have just showed this video and let everybody go home early.
Can I just say it's a nice use of Adele's "Rolling in the Deep" instrumental?
Is that what that is?
That's what that is. That's Adele's song.
Huh.
It's instrumental.
I wonder if YouTube is going to flag it.
GSM and CDMA customers.
Oops. I don't know what I did there.
Oh, there. GSM
Sorry.
networks.
Sorry, Bob.
iPhone 4S also has an all-new 8-megapixel camera, which dramatically increases the amount of detail in your photos. But the quality of a photograph isn't just about...
Okay, Eileen, who's this?
The optics of the camera are just
Actually,
as
I don't
crucial.
know this one.
And we've made significant
Sorry.
improvements here. We increased the size of the aperture to let more light in. We added a 5th lens, which gives you a sharper image overall. And the new sensor is designed to capture more light within each pixel, so you get far sharper photos with more detail and more accurate color. When you see the quality of the photos you get from this camera, it's hard to believe they came from a mobile phone. We also know people love to shoot video on their iPhone, so we've made some big advancements here too. iPhone 4S records 1080p HD video at 30 frames per second.
Let me ask you about Alex. Ask you about that. The sensor isn't 1,080 lines, or is it? Is it going to be scaled 1080p?
You know, it's going to be hard to tell. I mean, there's enough pixels there to do it, but typically with these little cameras, there's very little actual sharpness difference between 1080p and 720p.
Right.
So we'll have to, once I get it.
That's been my experience
you know,
with the other phones.
We'll take the two videos and play them back, you know, side by side. But a lot of times, 720, you know, with the lens that small, it doesn't resolve to 1080p particularly effectively, and oftentimes the CMOS sensor is being scanned slower on the 1080p, so there's actually more of the jello vision than 720p.
On the tech notes, they're saying explicitly 1080p up to 30 frames per second with audio.
Okay.
The gyro, along with the incredible new software, will stabilize your video.
That's great. So
cool.
that's hardware stabilization, not software
We've
stabilization.
taken what was already an amazing...
I wonder what the resolution is going to be when you have the stabilization turned on, though. I wonder if it drops down to 720p.
Oh, it might.
It might. Which would be fine. I would give up.
Absolutely.
That stabilization is huge.
So you use the extra resolution to be able to compensate. That actually makes a lot of sense. They say it's software stabilization, yes, but it uses the gyroscope, which means it's in fact.
Right.
That's what I mean when I say all image stabilization is ultimately software, right?
Well, no.
You could have optical image stabilization.
Optical is actually moving the lens according to your, you know.
It doesn't do
and
that, I presume.
And what that means is that you're getting the full image, you know, because the lens is actually moving to react to it. And that's usually the most expensive. That's what you see in a lot of, I mean, consumer cameras have that all now.
Right.
You can't do that with a fixed lens like what you have there.
So it's a hybrid because it's using the gyroscope to note motion, but then making the compensation.
So what it's not doing is necessarily using image analyzation to do it. It's using the gyroscope to do it.
Which is too slow. You can't do that in real time, probably.
Possibly.
The camera is smart enough to know whether you're taking a portrait or a group shot and automatically focus and expose for either. You get quicker access to your camera right from the lock screen. You can use the volume button to take a photo, and then you can crop, enhance, and edit your photo right on your iPhone.
That's nice.
iOS 5 gives you over 200 other new and improved features, including Notification Center, iMessage, and reminders.
This stuff we've seen, of course, since WWDC.
Apple really loves the sort of features that are absolutely tactile, that you don't need to explain them, and photos are definitely in that category. And speaking as a guy who every month has to take out a couple of different new phones to check out, one of my standard tests is take it into the Boston Public Library and take a standard test shot. The amount of time that you have to waste to wait for the camera to boot up, then wait for it to be ready to take a picture, and then actually get the exposure is a pretty obvious failing of most cameras, including the iPhone 4. So if that's one, if they deliver on just that one feature, in which this is as good a camera as anything that you would buy from Nikon or Canon for $200, $250, they already have a pretty big win.
Let's continue on. By the way, I still am getting this error message, access denied, on apple.com on this server. So their servers,
it's everywhere. I was trying to get into the PR section of their site to download some stuff. It took me about 5 minutes before I could even get into the PR section.
Yeah, although this movie that we're watching is coming from the Apple site, but I was able to cache it, so it's up and down, obviously.
iCloud stores your music, photos, apps, mail, contacts, calendars, documents, and more, and wirelessly pushes your content to your devices automatically. With iCloud, you don't have to do anything. It just works.
This is where Apple, by owning the ecosystem, really has some advantages.
What's inside the iPhone 4S. With the new dual-core A5 chip, it's so much faster. The new camera is incredible. It comes with iOS 5 and iCloud. And with Siri, your iPhone can do things no other phone has ever done. iPhone 4S is the most amazing iPhone yet.
Well,
really? Did they really have to say that?
Yeah, it's marketing.
We ended with Adele.
The new iPhone 4S, it's not as good as the
Some
last
features
one.
may not be available in all languages or all areas.
I was expecting them to like respond to like Amazon's big statement last week that we're other companies are in the business of making things expensive. We're in the business of making things less expensive.
Yeah, that was
so Apple could have said we decided to go to a 640 by 480 display, no camera.
We can make it less
no
expensive.
support for Bluetooth. And now we're selling it for $18.
Yeah,
I don't think that's an Apple thing to do again.
We're talking about the big Apple announcements. We'll summarize those announcements and have more commentary for you in just a little bit. Ihnatko is here from the Chicago Sun-Times. Alex Lindsay from pixelcore.com. The Squirrel, God only knows where that's from.
Boston's Public Garden.
The Public Garden Squirrel. The store is back up, by the way, and yes, the iPod Classic is still available, just $249. So I guess that 7G Classic is, in fact, the new iPod Classic. And we'll talk a little bit more about other pricing changes, including a free 3GS in just a moment. First, I'd like to tell you about the best way to meet online with GoToMeeting. With everyone on the go these days, holding an impromptu meeting can be virtually impossible unless you're using something like GoToMeeting from Citrix. You can host your meeting online from your computer, while your attendees can join from any computer, even the iPad, iPhone, or Android phone. Just go to the App Store or the Android Market and get that free app to start joining GoToMeeting sessions from anywhere. You attend your online meeting on the phone. Isn't that awesome? Or the iPad? I just love this. And now with the HD Faces, you also have video of your attendees too. And I'll tell you, if you're selling somebody or you're pitching somebody or you're training somebody, seeing that body language makes a huge difference. The smile, the arms folded, the frown, all of that can tell you a lot more than just listening to somebody on a conference call. Share your screen, share your video, meet on your mobile device anywhere you are. It's incredible. And the price is right, $49 a month. But right now, try it free for 30 days. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click the orange Try It Free button, and use the offer code MacBreak. 30 days for free of literally the best meeting software out there. You could spend tens of thousands of dollars on a custom hardware solution, or you could just use GoToMeeting and get a better result. GoToMeeting.com. Try it free right now. Use the offer code MacBreak. So pricing not changed on the iPhone 4S, but there is a new 64-gigabyte model. White and black still there. That's good. And the biggest change, of course, you can now get it on Verizon, AT&T, and Sprint.
Who evidently, the rumor is they spent a lot of money to make sure that they could get it on.
According to the Wall Street Journal, they spent $30 million. They said they'd buy 30 million iPhones over the next 4 years. That's worth about $20 billion.
Yeah.
That's not chump change, no matter how you put it.
And even Sprint itself, Dan Hesse said, yeah, we're betting the farm on this one. We're all in on the iPhone.
I think that was they couldn't survive without it.
They had to have it.
They had to have it.
And T-Mobile had announced earlier, no, we're not getting it. They wanted to lower expectations. So T-Mobile, which is a distant fourth in the cell phone.
It doesn't matter because they're about to be. I mean, if the merger goes through, I think
part of the merger goes through is a big if, though.
Right.
What else about the
postcards?
iPhone? Postcards.
I'm going to start sending you postcards from my iPhone.
I think
I'm going to start sending Leo Laporte.
It's not postcards, it's greeting cards.
Greeting cards.
Even better.
Honestly, actually, that is kind of cool when you think about it. The idea that I can be like on a trip or someplace, seeing like, oh, hey, that's cool. There's the giant chrome bean in Chicago's Millennium Park, and remember that, oh, my sister's birthday is in 2 days. He just took this picture and just, okay, I'm going to make a greeting card in the next 3 minutes. It'll be actually signed, not signed, but that would be a great feature. You can also upload a version of your signature that will be stamped, like partially embossed, so it looks like a pen was on it. Use water soluble ink, but the ability to do something that tangible from a phone is actually kind of cool. I don't know if it ever did a position in the keynote. But
I think the stock market might agree with you. Here's American Greetings stock price, which at 1 p.m. Eastern time, which is the time of the announcement, plummeted a couple of bucks. Actually, they're down 1.27 right now at a 7% drop.
Was the senior officer, was Ziggy found with a hooker or something?
No, I think it was that announcement.
Really was the announcement.
I believe it. I believe that is the news. So
Apple has become a very scary company.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a business that they're in. I don't think it's going to hurt greeting cards particularly, but I do think that you're right. If it's got a great camera, which it apparently does, and you take a great picture, and then
I can definitely see using it. I travel enough, sending it to my parents or whatever. The one thing that I'd love to see that I doubt will happen because it's Apple is some kind of SDK for people to develop them. It'd be really interesting, for instance, for Yellowstone or something like that, or Yosemite to have their own designs that you can download. So when you're there, you can take a picture and it's got kind of like a little art design that kind of puts you there, and then you can send it out. I think that'd
be cool.
That'd make it really good.
Well, I'd like to see an API for Siri as well. It'd be really great if you're an app developer to hook into that. For instance, American Greetings could get back into the game by making their own app for the iPhone and having it say, send a greeting card to mom on her birthday, talk to the phone and have it happen. So there's as long as there's an API, nobody's app.
Well, I think it'll be really interesting if you take that photo and just say send postcard to mom.
Right.
Like that's, I mean, if that...
And it would know the address.
That's crazy.
It would hook into the app.
Even if it worked better where you're actually just simply browsing pictures and you say, send this to my mom as a card.
Yeah. That would be cool. By the way, to be absolutely fair, Apple's stock price also dropping $11.37 after this announcement today. That's a 3% drop, not a terrible drop, but and also probably not a huge vote from the stock market pro or con on this. You expect that when there's an announcement, the stock price usually does go down, just because the rumors were what the price was going up on. Now there are no more rumors. There's just the fact. Do you think there was an iPhone 5 somewhere lurking out there? We saw so many designs of a slimmer, larger screen, higher resolution. Is that going to be out in June? Was it planned for now, but they couldn't get it out? Alex?
I think it probably wasn't close. I think it's still in development. I don't think there's any... I mean, when they moved from 3G to 3GS, it was just they're going to release as many features as they have to,
and no more
to move forward, and then they'll, and they're going to keep on saving their powder for the next one.
Andy, you agree?
I agree completely. I think that they're waiting for. I think the iPhone 5 will be LTE, and they're not going to do that until they feel as though they've licked a whole bunch of problems. The one problem that they've been mentioning has been battery life, and this device already extended the battery life over the iPhone 4. But I think it's also they're waiting for there to be more than one, at least U.S. national carrier that can actually handle decent 4G speeds. They actually had a slide that is they're trying to combat Android 4G by saying, hey, okay, if you want to call us our phone a 4G phone, sure, the speeds of our enhanced 3G HSPDA. 5-letter word starts with A. Ends with A. I always transpose at least two of those letters.
HSPDA plus. You're right.
Thank you very much. I'm going to admit my ignorance here. That's a hallmark of AT&T's network. They were claiming that they can get similar speeds on their existing enhanced 3G network that you can get on other networks' 4G network. I'm not sure that's exactly true. Verizon's 4G LTE is screaming fast, but still they have a point to make. I don't think it's typical of Apple form not to release a new feature until they think they can actually make a positive impact with it, as opposed to just winning a war in a bullet chart of comparisons of phones.
Some people watching probably asking, why aren't you running down all of the features? We figure by now you've already seen and looked at all the spec sheets, or you could go back and watch our special broadcast, because we did do a live broadcast as the announcement was being made, and you could follow all that there. I will tell you probably the most important thing people want to know, which is that the Gold Master for iOS 5 shipped today, so developers can start to work. iOS 5 will come out October 12th, which is about 8 days from now. You can pre-order the iPhone 4S, not today, but October 7th, Friday. which is kind of interesting. And delivery will be 1 week later, October 14th. Presumably, you could do that pre-order and have it mailed to your house and activate. You know what they didn't pay a lot of attention to? Something they mentioned a lot at WWDC was over-the-air activation, over-the-air updating, all of those features. They didn't talk a lot about iOS 5 features.
They mentioned that in passing, and they really just went over the greatest hits file from WWDC talk. That was really surprising. They went into such detail, just recapping stuff earlier. That looks like the sort of stuff that they would just put up 1 or 2 slides with a table of features and just remind people of what iOS 5 reminds. But we're going to highlight 2 features that we haven't been able to show until today.
Yeah,
is how they would normally go.
Yeah, they did announce the rumor mill wasn't wrong about a new iPod Touch. There's now a white and a black iPod Touch, but not a better camera, not a better screen, just a faster processor and better gaming. They were pushing that gaming on the iPod Touch as well. In fact, saying it was the #1 selling portable gaming platform out there. $199 is starting price on the iPod Touch.
And I think that was one of the quiet little submarine things they slipped into the talk, talking about how iOS 5 at least on the 4S supports AirPlay mirroring of displays.
Yeah.
So essentially, given that developers are already developing games for the iPhone 4 and the iPod Touch for this Retina really high resolution display, essentially what you're holding in your hands right now is a console game if you've got an Apple TV. Because you've got Wii style controls, and now you can basically do all this while watching over there for that. So they made no secret of the fact that now they're calling it actively the most popular mobile gaming platform on the planet.
Yeah.
So you know that's where they're hoping to control that part of the dialogue as well.
Seems to me they used that tagline last time as well, though. I think they knew it was a gaming device.
I think that. When you talk about gaming devices, I'm just still surprised they haven't taken the Apple TV 2 and just opened up the iOS. And made it more.
Would you give up on this TV crap? You thought there was going to be a big screen TV. That didn't happen.
I think that there's something.
He didn't mention Apple TV, the hobby. He didn't mention any of that stuff. He didn't even mention Steve Jobs. In fact, Steve Jobs was a great invisible at this. Some people thought maybe Steve would show up, or they would at least say, Steve's not here, but he wishes you the best. Nothing. This is the Steve Jobs era is over at Apple.
And I wonder if our impatience specifically with this keynote was that there's no distortion field. We suddenly realized that it's just a really long presentation.
That was what Steve's mastery was at. Although Steve has given even less interesting keynotes. I mean, we've sat through a few at that very town hall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember the launch of the original iPhone, where just like this, everybody knew that the meat was going to be this new device that was going to be a phone, and it seemed as though it took an hour and 30 minutes just to get to the 25-minute presentation where they finally took the wraps off the thing.
Right.
So maybe we shouldn't be quite so Joan Rivers-ish about the showbiz aspect.
That's part of the fun. iPod Nano is updated with a new user interface. It has a pedometer built into it, so you don't need a dongle anymore to use Nike Plus. And they I thought this was interesting, acknowledged that many people are starting to use the Nano as wristwatches, which is ridiculous, as people wear fewer wristwatches, but now they wear the Nano.
But it makes it more usable. Before, it only had really one face, and you can have it black or white as a background.
Right.
So now they're really making it more of an accessory sort of thing. I thought it was really cool too that one of the, I think it was 14 new faces, is a Mickey Mouse watch.
I love that.
So it kind of helps when, someone higher up at Apple has some pull at Disney.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Multi-touch now, too.
It was always multi-touch.
That's what I thought, but it's saying multi-touch as if this is a new feature, so...
Multi-touch, and that's how you would rotate the display.
That's right. You have to do 2 fingers. That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, I got to say that's a good idea. Now, instead of having a 2x2 grid of tiny little app icons, now you basically scroll left and right through existing features.
Yeah, the Nano, though, is actually kind of beloved, I think. Will there be an update to existing Nanos to give it those watch faces, or do you have to buy a new one?
I don't know. Good guess.
Unknown. Let me see if I can find I'm trying to find the watch faces, because I'd love to see these.
It's a good work, and it really is. I mean, that is the great workout little device. If you don't want to be carrying around.
Here's all the clock faces. So they've always had the white and the black clocks. Now you've got a other white and black clock faces. It's not loading. There's green.
You got to give it a second.
I'm impatient.
It's going to space.
This server is in bad shape. The Apple server right now.
Yeah, everyone's leaving Siri and the iPhone 4S alone. They really all want to see this one page of watch faces.
Apparently. No, actually, Siri is also suffering server issues. So I see digital faces, I see analog faces, I see multi-dial faces, day-date features, Mickey Mouse, looks like a Kermit the Frog. And who is that? Is that Elmo down here? What is this? What is that down there? That looks like Elmo.
Yeah, that's Elmo. Yeah.
So they also apparently did a deal with Henson.
Henson, well, I was going to say, I think Henson belongs to Disney now.
That's why. You're right. I
wonder if they bought the characters back or something.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's not Elmo. That's Animal. We're being told. Pardon me. Apologies. It is, of course.
For the first time, you've got me thinking that Elmo grows up, gets into rock music and drugs, and becomes Animal.
It's the same voice, for crying out loud.
They need to get Elmo into a Scared Straight program right now.
Animal. It's interesting. Animal's the drummer, isn't he, on the rock band? Wow. That Animal has a little date feature, and they even make it look like a physical date dial. That's hysterical. There's Kermit. Here's Minnie. Here's Mickey. This is nice. You know what? It makes me want to buy a watch band.
And you know what? I would actually go to the App Store to buy different watch faces. If people came up with really cool different faces, if there was $1.99 to get an absolutely inscrutable binary clock face, that would be $1.99 I would spend.
Yeah, because you just like to torture people. Actually, you had a good suggestion: a Nixie clock face.
Yeah, so someone on Twitter said that they should do a version of like Steve Wozniak's Nixie tube clock watch, and I said, well, you have to have a housing for this about the size of a tuna can just to make sure to complete the effect.
Let's see. The iPod Classic is still alive. You can breathe easy, thank goodness. There was some concern because that's the only one that holds 160 gigabytes of music. And I know, Alex, you filled yours up. So
well, and I think that it's got a lot of video and audio to fill it up. But it's one of those things that I think that they're a couple years away from the cloud really sinking in and people going, well, I don't really need storage anymore. You know, they got to prove that the iCloud's actually going to work. They got to get people actually converted over.
And you got to figure that this downtime on the Apple's site
does not make you feel better.
Not an encouraging thing for
the Apple site now run on iCloud.
Wow, wow. I mean, I'm not. Look, our site was down too, but it's Apple. We're just twit. Somebody's saying that there is a new Apple Care program, and I'm trying to find this. Yeah, Apple Care Plus, 1 year of hardware repair coverage, 90 days of telephone text support. So Apple Care Plus for the iPhone extends its coverage to 2 years and adds accidental damage protection. So they do have a new Apple Care program for the iPhone. It is $99, but I have to say I've gone through a number of glass iPhones. Well, not me, my kids. The new Apple Care Plus extends repair coverage and technical support for 2 years from the original purchase date of your iPhone, adds coverage for up to 2 incidents of accidental damage due to handling, each subject to a $49 service fee. So you pay $100. You could break your phone twice, $50 each time to get it fixed. Is that worth it?
I've killed 2.
You would. It's $200 total.
Yeah, I would have been $200 out.
I would have paid.
2.
Yeah. Well, no, but they offer a replacement for $200, right? Is that not correct?
I think it's $199. Yeah.
Yeah.
The back glass only costs something like $29 to replace.
Right. Right.
Once it's total, it's $199. Also, but it's interesting though because remember that Apple has their super top secret "We're Awesome" policy,
right?
Where it's usually worthwhile to come in, be honest about what happened, and see if they'll just swap it out for you. They might actually do that. I wonder if the availability of this as an actual price in Apple Care, saying you can buy the "We're Awesome" policy for $99. I wonder if that will cause individual stores to be a little bit more stingy about when they'll swap out for broken machines.
Yeah, we read that email from an Apple retail employee last week, who explained that if you're nice, they have a lot of leeway. There's a lot that they can do over and above what they're required to do.
I just like the fact that if one of them has been. It turns out the iPhone does not do well in the warm cycle. In case you're wondering, that's the
what
kind
brand
of
of fabric softener did you use?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. So
they recommend Downy underneath the lid.
I've actually had one. I've had one die and one survive those things. Not that I've
an iPhone survived the wash.
3 days of rice.
That's very impressive.
3 days of rice.
Oh, rice. That's the key. Put it in a box with rice.
I think actually the only reason I think it survived though was because the battery was already dead.
The rice should be uncooked.
Yes, uncooked rice. You can't put it in the cooked rice. You have to
uncooked rice. You also want it to be in a Ziploc bag, so it'll pull moisture only from the phone and not from the environment.
And I actually have a theory that if you do it while the battery is working, while the battery is good, it'll kill the phone. It's only if the battery is completely dead.
You don't want
so
any
there's no
juice.
voltage.
The worst thing you can do, of course, is apply voltage. And if you drop a phone that has a removable battery, you pop the battery right away. And it saves that. There's also a corrosion issue. There's a place up the road, a piece, iPhone repair place, and I talked to them for a couple of hours while they repaired several of my iPhones about the various damages and things that would happen. And
well, if it isn't Butterfingers McGee.
Hey, I'm back. But no, this iPhone's Apple Care Plus, I think for a lot of people, that's actually pretty attractive. That's pretty desirable. What else? Anything else to say? We've got iCloud. I think that what iCloud ends up being is unclear until we actually start using it. It's hard to understand what it's going to do.
It's hard to understand. It also, it's one of those features that really has to work all the time. The first time that I've started a document on my iPhone while waiting in line somewhere and then come home expecting it to be on my desktop, and it's not on my desktop and it's not on my iPhone either. That would be the time that I stopped trusting iCloud for anything for a month and a half or 2 months. So it's going to be interesting. Also, they haven't really mapped out yet the full parameters of what it does. A lot of people are making a big deal out of the fact that in the demo, they said sort of under his breath about streaming from iCloud. From the iTunes library.
But we don't know.
But they haven't actually announced that this is I don't believe they've announced it's a streaming service yet. But that just goes to show that there's so much that even developers don't really know about what iCloud is supposed to do. I mean, remember that Siri and this voice navigation is probably the landmark feature of the iPhone 4S. It's probably the reason. It would be not incorrect to assume that, not irrational to assume that that's the reason why they put such a beefy processor into it, so that it can do all this voice command. And yet, Apple said not a word about this. There wasn't even a hint about this in any of the developer builds until today's Golden Master. There was a button that if you were to tear apart one of the developer builds, you would see that somewhere within the user interface elements, there is a version of this keyboard that has a microphone on it, but otherwise, Apple hadn't said anything. Isn't that kind of unusual?
Why are they saying, why are they pointing out, the chat room's pointing out that Apple is now offering a USB micro adapter? That's probably for European audiences.
They have
it's required,
right? In the EU, they have to have one charger for everything. So that's how they get around that.
Right. Lots of new features in the camera. We mentioned image stabilization. There's face recognition built into the camera. I mean, I think this camera is going to be pretty impressive.
I think the stabilization is what people are going to notice the most. That and the resolution. But I mean, I think the stabilization is going to be very important.
Not only that, but just the simple fact that it can get great pictures from places that can't get great pictures from otherwise. That one of those demo pictures I was telling you about is inside this beautiful study hall at the Boston Public Library. And unfortunately, it wasn't until I took 3 pictures, one with like a regular camera, one with the iPhone 4, and one with, I think, was the Droid Bionic. And it wasn't until I got home that I realized that the regular camera took a great picture. The iPhone 4 took a great picture. Unfortunately, the Bionic's camera was didn't have the sort of enough light sensitivity that it could actually take a clear, unblurry photo. It kept the shutter open for so long that it was actually a useless photo. So the fact that they've made as good an improvement the iPhone 4 already was over other cameras, now they've made the sensor, what did they say, 72% more light sensitive. And now the camera it used to be an f2.8, now it's an f2.4. I really can't wait to get a hold of this camera and start rocking and rolling with it.
Yeah, not merely faster with light, but also faster at shooting. They showed a graph that showed how quickly, not only is it ready to shoot just in a second or two, but that it's able to continuous shoot at every half second another image. And that's the fastest, as far as I know, the fastest camera phone out there.
If I can go from this thing in my pocket to taking a picture in exactly the same amount of time it takes to go from a regular camera taken out of my pocket to taking a picture, that would, I think, be unprecedented in a camera phone.
The New iPhones start at $199, $299 for 32 gigs, 64 gigs, $399. They'll also offer, though, and this is interesting, they'll still sell the 3GS for $0 with 2-year contract, and $50 for the old iPhone 4. So there really will be three iPhones.
Is it $50 or $99?
Is it $99? I'm sorry, $99.
$99.
Right. So there will be 3 iPhones. And the truth is, $99 for an iPhone 4, which is not so much
great value.
less than what they're selling right now, is a good value.
Yeah. And also, $99, that's not a piece of crap phone. That's a damn sturdy phone. Yeah. And now that now that there's a free with contract phone, that's a pretty big stick to wave in front of other manufacturers right now.
Well, and lots of you can imagine lots of high school kids and college students, being able to just latch that on, into the family plan. It's not very expensive if you look at it that way.
But that's one big question that's going to have to be solved next week, is how many of these features do you lose when you go from 4S to a 4? How many more of these iOS 5 features do you lose when you go from a 4 to a 3GS now?
They didn't say, but we do think Siri will only work on a 4S, right? The voice assistant.
Yeah.
But we don't know. Again, no Facebook news, no iPad announcement for Facebook, no news about an NFC chip in the iPhone. No Apple HD TV. I'm sorry.
We didn't actually get to see the event. I mean, obviously they're talking a lot about Twitter integration, but they haven't really talked about the depth of Twitter integration.
Gene McDonald, who was here during our announcement from Smile on My Mac software, or I guess they call him some Smile software now, did mention that the Twitter integration is deep and available in an API. So expect a lot of Twitter integration. It feels, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels a little bit behind the times to promote Twitter when Facebook and Google Plus seem to be the monsters right now.
Well, I think, but Apple gets so well together with those guys. I mean, they're not. Yeah. The problem is they can't make an agreement with Facebook because Facebook's too much of a control personality, and they just downright don't trust and don't like Google.
The site, apparently, the Apple site does say for Siri is iPhone 4S only. Siri is still on the iPhone. They were offering this for a long time, but is working kind of sketchily right now, and they say it will be turned off on October 14th. So if you're using Siri on an iPhone 3GS or iPhone 4, whoops, I guess
it's still in the store, but you can't download it. You can download it, but it'll say, I'm sorry,
it'll stop working.
Don't know how, well, no, actually, the iTunes store was saying, sorry, I can't. I know I said you could download this, but it's not available for some reason.
Right.
Please don't ask me anymore.
Siri looks like really the interesting part of this story, I have to say, and I'll be very curious to see how this works. But as soon as we get, we'll be here in a couple of weeks with an iPhone 4S.
I'm actually
we'll demo for you.
The more I think about Siri, and the more I think about the way I might use it, depending on how well it actually
if you spend a lot of time in the car or running, as we saw in the video, this will be a great advantage to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think it might be the FaceTime of the 4S? Because every time we talk to people about FaceTime, either they never use it or they love it because they use it all the time. I think Siri might be in that same sort of category.
Right.
If it makes it, I guess it comes down to, is it going to be even superior to operating the keyboard directly? If it's faster to send a text message or send an email to just hold down the home button and say, send email to Chuck, subject line, hey, are we meeting for lunch? Content, yeah, hey, I'm confused, are we meeting on Thursday or Friday? Send. If that's easier than just actually tapping it out directly, then that's going to be a big win.
I'll tell you, it's funny because I've had on Android for some time. I've had this capability, and I always forget to use it. When I use it, I go, I really should use this more. To me, what it really ends up coming down to is how accurate it is. Yeah. If you have to fix it even one time in 4, then it's not useful. If it's really reliably accurate, and even if it requires you speaking perfectly or whatever, but if it would be reliably accurate, and you wouldn't have to pick up the phone and say, oh, let me fix that. I think you're more likely to use it.
Well, and I think that's the reason we stopped using voice activation, or I stopped using it on the iPhone, was because it was calling the wrong people. It was, immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my experience has been that I actually I rarely make phone calls on my iPhone, so I don't have a really big contact database there. But yeah, it's actually faster for me to hold down the voice button and say, call Dave, Google Voice, and then calling David, Google Voice, and then it goes on. So if they extend that to the entire experience, it's a pretty big deal. I mean, it's the first time. I was about to spoil my pick of the week, but yes.
The pick of the weeks are coming up in just a second, actually. Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times, Alex Lindsay from pixelcore.com, and I'm Leo Laporte. We are brought to you today by Audible.com. In fact, Andy, if you've got a book pick, I'd love to hear it. I'm reading American Gods, or listening to American Gods right now, the Neil Gaiman novel. There's a new 10th anniversary edition, dramatized. I cannot put it down. Yeah. I'm listening at night. I'm getting in the car just to sit and listen. I'm spending more time on the stair climber. I think that's one of the things that's great about Audible.com. Not only do you get to read in times when you wouldn't normally read, which means for me the difference between getting to read great literature and not reading it at all, because I'm so busy. But there's always time in the car. There's always time at the gym. There's always time doing the dishes or the laundry or mowing the lawn that you can listen. You'd be surprised how many people actually listen to Audible while mowing the lawn. It turns out to be a very popular place to listen to Audible. Go to Audible.com, browse around, take a look at all the choices you have. 75,000 books, TV shows, performances, and more. And it's fantastic. Jeff Jarvis's new book, Public Parts, it's on Audible. William Shatner, Shatner Rules. Your key to understanding the Shatnerverse is on Audible. With William Shatner. I got to listen, man. Let's just see if Shatner's on it. He's listed as the narrator. I think he must be. You love William Shatner.
It's a bridge, but it still takes 23 hours.
4 hours and 20 minutes.
I was to have their name above the title, but my name was in the title. How could I turn that down? Rule: always be yourself, especially if yourself has a high Q rating and is pleasing to a wide variety of advertisers. See Shatner.
Okay, there's another thing. If you're trying to get your Shatner impression down, this would probably be a good thing to listen to, too. Andy, what are you listening to these days?
Well, let's go from a bad actor to a really good actor. John Lithgow just released a memoir called Drama: An Actor's Education. That I don't have the audio version of it, but I've been reading the Kindle version. I'm about halfway through it right now, and man, is he an entertaining storyteller. Right off the bat, he starts off by explaining how reading P.G. Wodehouse to his elderly parents saved his dad's life and gave him an extra year and a half worth of life, but also helped him to understand at age like 52 or 53, like exactly what he was as an actor and what his life was all about. And then the stories just go on from there. It's not all about, and then by the time I woke up, I was on a Greyhound bus in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was wearing a tutu and holding the remnants of a burrito, and I don't know how I got there.
Lithgow's done some narration himself. He did a bunch of Dr. Seuss stuff, so he does this one. Let me just play a little of John Lithgow reading his book, Drama: An Actor's Education. This is one of the things I like about Audible. You can hear what the narrator sounds like before you buy the book. Just press the little button that says sample here, and if Leo would press the button. I did, but it's not. There it is.
My mother, my father, and I gradually fell into a predictable routine. I fixed their meals. I took Dad on short, halting constitutional walks. I bathed him, powdered him, and got rid of that awful rash. He'd gotten shabby and unkempt.
You know what I love is that when you get a great actor, especially reading his own book, it's you're having a conversation with John Lithgow. That's awesome. Can't wait to listen to that. So here's the deal. Go to audible.com/MacBreak, and you'll be signing up for the Gold account. That's the book a month subscription. First month's free. You can cancel it anytime, so that means your first book is free, and you can keep it forever. You don't have to pay a penny if you don't want to. I have a feeling you'll stick around. Once you, this is really the amazing thing. You start to look at Audible. Look, there's the new Neil Stephenson novel, and you just know I mean, every time I do a commercial for Audible, I find 3 more books I want to listen to, and usually Andy's recommendation is one of them. Always it is. He recommended American Gods. He's recommended everything I'm listening to right now. Audible.com/MacBreak. Thank you for your support, Audible, and everybody should try this. Works on the iPhone, iPad, Android phones. Yes, even the late lamented Zune. Audible.com/MacBreak. Did you see that? The iPod killer is finally dead.
Oh my gosh! Here's the, can I have a Zune? Do you have a Zune?
Yeah, I have a Zune. I have a Zune HD, which actually I liked a lot.
I liked it a lot, except it seemed like every time I picked it up, I had to resync to get to authorize again,
well,
and
that's
it wouldn't.
The copy protection.
And then I had to plug it in.
This is exactly why Apple doesn't do a subscription service. Is that?
But then I had to, but the problem is if all I had to do was get to a Wi-Fi and just go click, 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 and it worked, it would be fine. But the problem was that, I have to relaunch into Windows, and I have to plug it into my computer, and then I have to let the computer do it. Right. And just to say that, I'm still subscribed, and that was what killed it for me. And then I was so excited about it, and I just stopped using it.
So that's a story, I guess, that we should mention. There aren't very many or other Apple-related stories than the big announcement, but that's one of them, that the Zune is dead. Microsoft finally admitted it. Of course, the Windows Phone 7 really is a Zune. And Zune, the Zune Pass is a live Zune. They called it Zune Music Pass now.
And the Zune HD was our first look at the Metro interface, which is now at the core of Windows 8. So it's a historical artifact.
Absolutely, yeah. I got to find mine.
And I have to say, I know some people love the interface. I never understood it. I'm not smart enough.
Be careful, because if you say that, they're going to call you up and say, how would you like to take the Windows Phone challenge?
I'll take a Windows Phone challenge. They want to send me one, I'll test it. Hey, I got an Android, I got an iPhone.
Yeah,
I'm ready to.
That's what I want to do. I want to do one of each, one of the top of the line new phones.
But I'm not going to buy one. So if Microsoft wants me to test a Windows Phone, they have to send me one.
I bought one, but then I gave it to Tony Wang, our editor. Amazon Kindle Fire, of course, the big announcement. The iPad, not killer. I would say it will take a chunk of iPad's business. Was announced last week, and according to eDataSource, which actually does a pretty good job of assessing by looking at emails, says that they estimate 95,000 pre-orders for the Kindle Fire on day one. Not surprising. I ordered one, and I also bought the new little Kindle, and I love it.
It's great stuff.
I'm very curious to see what happens with the Fire. I have a feeling that it won't cannibalize the iPad, because the iPad does so much more, including having a camera and Bluetooth. But at $199,
I think the biggest thing. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I think that it doesn't compete with the iPad. It complements the iPad. And it means that every other tablet manufacturer is now so screwed right now. Yeah. Because right now, if someone has $500, they're going to be buying the iPad. Now, and if they have $200, $250, they want a smaller tablet that's going to be the Kindle Fire. So where does that leave you if you had plans to sell a $399 10-inch Android tablet? It's like, oh, goodness, it's back to the drawing board for you.
Yeah. And from this news from ABC, George Stephanopoulos interviewing the president, turns out that he had access to the iPad 2 before any of us did. Barack Obama had a dinner at the White House for tech leaders, including Steve Jobs sitting on his left, Mark Zuckerberg sitting to his right. And at that dinner, apparently, about 2 weeks before the iPad 2 was shipped, Steve gave the president his very own iPad 2. I guess you can trust.
They still made him sign an NDA.
I think you could probably trust a president to keep secrets. He is a BlackBerry user, but is well known for using an iPad. And here is his revelation to George Stephanopoulos.
I'm pretty eclectic. I read a lot of newspapers that I used to read in print. I now read on the web.
You have an iPad or just?
I've got an iPad, and Steve Jobs actually gave it to me a little bit early.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Even the president thinks it's pretty cool.
Not just that, but doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States. If you can name drop Steve Jobs, you're gonna name drop Steve Jobs. I was having dinner with Steve. Oh, I'm sorry, you know him as Steve Jobs.
Jobs on his left and Zuck on his right. You got to think a 27, actually he was 26 at the time, 26-year-old kid. He's sitting next to the president of the United States. He's thinking, yeah, I'm kind of something special.
You know what he's thinking? I'm 2 seats away from Steve Jobs.
Yeah, you wonder if there's a little spitball infighting, maybe a food fight going on in the background there. Let's get Andy Ihnatko's pick of the week, Mr. Ihnatko.
Leo, I know that you got one of these in the mail too. It's more prophetic than anything else. Plantronics has a new-ish Bluetooth headset. They're calling the Mark, M-A-R-Q-E, that has a couple of really cool features.
Look how small that is, first of all.
It's really, really tiny, and also it really has cool, like, iPhone-type styling. As a matter of fact, for the last time until the real iPhone 5 gets released, the waitress at the diner this morning asked me what I thought the new iPhone would be like. I was wearing this. I was tempted to take it out of my ears. Oh, this is it. It's all like voice command. Just all talks to you. But it came in yesterday. I've been wearing it for 2 days straight. I think it's the first Bluetooth headset that I've ever tried where I can actually wear it and it doesn't feel as though I'm got this thing stuck in my ear. It actually can, like a lot of headsets, it can actually talk to you. So when you actually pair it, it actually talks you through the process of pairing through a device. It's pretty clear. There's actually also an iPhone app that you can download, so if you want to check what the sound quality is.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed. I did that, and I played back the sound quality. I was a little disappointed with how I sounded.
Yeah, it's a Bluetooth headset, so already the bar is set a little bit low. Right. I've yet to find a Bluetooth headset that made me want to forget where my wired headset is. I really think that if you really want to be heard clearly, you still got to go with wired. But realize that I'm one of these people who's been training everybody I know not to call me.
Right.
If you got to contact me through the phone, send me an email because I'll check the email. If you can't do that, send me a text because if there's a phone call that comes in, chances are I won't even check for the voicemail for an entire week. So even on that basis, just walking around with this thing in my ear for 2 days, listening to podcasts, and still having an ear open so that I can pay attention to traffic and stuff like that was a cool thing. I'm guessing that when Siri, when I get the 4S to test out, and if it really does turn out to be a really great way just to control my iPhone and interact with my iPhone, then I think that a Bluetooth headset will kind of be upgraded for a lot of people from something you don't need because I don't use the phone very much to something you want to have because it allows you to use your phone in a completely hands-free way. Whether it's actually you're driving, or you're actually having your active on-the-go lifestyle where you're too busy doing this with your hands while you walk to actually operate your iPhone, or whether you just want to be a lazy bum who doesn't want to lift up his hands for any reason whatsoever. For all the styling, for all the coolness about it, it's pretty cheap. It's only about, I believe it lists for like $60. It's made by Plantronics, and it's called the Mark, M-A-R-Q-U-E.
Yeah, I was listening to Audible books on it, and podcasts sounded great, and it is light. Boy, I know I'll lose it soon. I mean, phew. It's so tiny, but yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty cool. And they include something called Vocalist with it, which is their version of Siri, and it's actually a branded subscription. I already belonged to for many years. Dial2do.com, D-I-A-L, the number 2do.com, which I love, and it does a lot of the Siri things. You could say send an email to Andy. You could do a lot of things that Siri does, but making a phone call to the Dial2Do servers. Actually, it's the best way to get Dial2Do because it's $3.99 a month compared to, I think I was paying $5.99 a month. So that's a good deal. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to do mine right now because once you see Alex's, you're not gonna really care about anything I say. So I don't know. Are you use Reddit? Either of you use Reddit? I love Reddit. I like to read Reddit all the time. Reddit is a website that is kind of like Dig. It's a user news site where people post funny things, and then you can vote them up or down. And the stuff that's highly voted, put comments on. They've got an Ask Me Anything feature that's great. It's kind of like a Quora for the rest of us. Our TNT folks have a subreddit that lets, and you can create subreddits. In fact, Brett's gotten a little bit of trouble because of these subreddits. Anybody can create a subreddit that's their own personal Reddit. Condé Nast owns it, but they spun it out recently and said, we're going to make sure Reddit keeps its spirit, and I like that. I found a really interesting Reddit app for Lion. It's called Envelope, and let me show you. It's on the App Store. It's not very, I think it's a couple of bucks. And what it essentially is, you can use Reddit on the web, of course, but if you like to use Lion's full screen feature and you kind of want to make it be like a tablet version, it's got the videos are built in, the website's built in, you can browse through stuff, you can vote up and down, do all the Reddit stuff, star stuff. I think this is actually a very cool way to use Reddit. You can have hot, new, controversial, all the stuff that you'd get on the website. You can have saved articles or hidden articles. If you use Reddit, this is just kind of a fun tablet-y way to browse Reddit. By the way, I'm told that Reddit already has a Squirrel Tim Cook meme. I called it going on. So this is called Envelope, and it is on the App Store. That's my pick. And now, get ready for Alex's pick. Oh, my God. Is that a Scud missile launcher on the table, or are you just happy to see me?
Well, so I have to admit,
$3.99 on envelope. Thank you.
This was my I think my first Woot.
Look at this, folks.
Okay.
We gotta move. This is a Woot purchase?
It was a Woot purchase. I'm afraid I got this at like I opened it up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, this will look so great on MacBreak.
Do we have the
It was
top-down
literally
camera?
like, this is going to look so great on MacBreak.
Okay, grab the top-down camera.
And I was like hoping that it worked.
It's USB. It's got its own dedicated software.
You got your own dedicated software that controls it. So I'm just using my arrow keys to. I'm waiting for the overhead.
We'll get you a shot of it in a second. There it is.
There you go. So I'm just using my little arrow keys to.
It's turning itself.
Yeah, so I can control it.
And
then,
if you work in an office, if you work in a cubicle, you've got to have this.
And then if I believe if I hit the space bar. Yep.
Oh my God! Don't shoot.
It really. Sorry, that actually got.
Can you aim? Can you aim up and down too?
Yeah. So you can go. I'll shoot a little lower next time.
My
Here we go.
God! Well, shoot me.
Here, wait. We'll see if we get that lamp. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna try to get the lamp here. So
he's aiming. This is. No, you did. You hit the lamp.
That's what I'm talking about.
Very nicely done.
Yes, thank you very much. I've been anyway, and
it's army green.
It's army green, and it actually has a little bit of range. They are Nerfs, so they're pretty safe. It definitely has a pretty good range, and it's Dream Cheeky Storm. Computer-controlled missile launcher, and
it's on Amazon. But you got
the only thing is it does require some explanation when your son runs up while you're in the kitchen and says, "Dad, can we play with the gun again?" And now the problem is I'm from
where they actually do play with
I'm from
guns.
Appalachia, where a 4-year-old would be expected to already know to use a gun,
right.
and my wife is not from Appalachia, and
probably doesn't like guns too much.
And you get this big wide open look in her eyes, like, "Are you out there teaching our son how to fire a gun?" And I'm like, "It's a Nerf gun. It's a Nerf gun." He loves it, by the way. He thinks it's the coolest thing.
Dream Cheeky makes some interesting stuff. Look, they've got a mailbox friends alert. They've got a big red button.
They got a lot of fun stuff.
And they've got, this is the Storm OIC missile launcher.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. Wow. So it's as I said, it's silly. It's a silly purchase, I will admit to you. But you can imagine how many hours could be lost in full open
their mission.
work app.
Dream Cheeky was established in 2008 to supply customers with the gadgets they need to harass coworkers. So there you have it. Wow. That is really, they make a cup with a warmer eye-launched Thunder. This is the best, though, the Storm OIC missile. But I guess we've missed the Woot opportunity. But yeah, $37.99 on Amazon.
Oh, it locked. And it does have a safety lock to make sure you don't.
Yeah, as it should.
We're going. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Hold on.
I wish we could see the trajectory here, but I guess we can't. Here, shoot the camera.
I think that's the farthest. Here, you got to turn it. The front is this way, so you have to kind of get it.
Oh, I see.
It can only rotate so far. Okay, here we go. Okay,
not that camera. Shoot the camera.
That camera? I don't think you can hit that. Look, give me the jib.
All right.
Here we go.
Let's see if she can hit that jib.
Okay, here we go. All right. I think I might need to.
Up, left, up, left, down, shoot.
Like right there?
Right there.
Oh.
Put it on the jib.
Wait, on, do it again.
It jammed.
It jammed. Hold on.
This is exactly what. Oh!
Holy! I think it sent it all the way over to TNT.
Okay. We can adjust.
I need some missiles back. There's one bad one. I
that's
ripped
a bad
that
one. All right. Well, we'll put this on here.
Yeah. Just leave. Leave it there, and then here. Oh.
Okay. We're getting the missiles back.
All right.
It's easy to load, kids.
Reload. Here we go.
For $40, I would buy this even just to take it apart and have a computer-controlled servo platform and an actuator.
By the way, we've brought the Dream Cheeky website down. Either that or they're served by the same people who do Apple. All right. Okay. Oh yeah. No. Put the jib camera. Put 33 up so we can see when we actually hit you.
I think this is the
walk into the kill zone, my minion. That's what you're here for.
Is that the broken one?
Wait, it's fine.
Whoa! Just a little to the left. All right, I got it.
Okay, ready?
Okay, ready? Jib. Oh!
Anyway.
Congratulations. You're a human shield for Generalissimo Leo.
Anyway.
That is so freaking awesome.
Anyway, I literally, it was just, I literally bought it because as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's going to be so awesome.
Jim Halpert needs this, I got to say, to bother Dwight.
Yeah, it is a great little, it's a fun little tool.
Yeah.
Kids love it.
Boy, if we could just get the shark in here, we could finally rid ourselves of that pest.
We get the shark. Where's the shark? Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I'm glad it is a lot of fun and it works. And it's got a camera, but I haven't been able to get it to work correctly on the Mac, on the PC side.
It's got a camera?
It's got a little USB camera, so you actually have
God.
With that, you can actually, and it has like a little red dot in the center, so you can kind of sight it up and everything else. Yeah.
Wow. And now you know why I did my pick completely separate from Alex's.
I've been looking at retrofitting it with
Holy cow.
Yeah, I've been considering retrofitting it with some well, I'm not going to
retrofitting it with explosives? Is that what you said?
Not explosives, but you know,
dummy. It'd be great just as a motion controlled time lapse camera for something like a GoPro. If I could take the weight of it, and you can simply program it to simply
shoot
please
a camera.
I'm just saying, not that I would ever do this, but if you soak something in some something like lighter fluid and then put a little flame out in front of it and then fire it through it, it'd be pretty Roman. That's all I got to say.
Said Alex Lindsay, not Leo Laporte.
I didn't say that, nor did we recommend it.
We would never recommend that.
The other thing you could do is put a little contact explosive on the tip.
If you took iodine and
yeah, just make some contact explosive, put it on the tip, and then you'd know when it landed, so you wouldn't lose them. You wouldn't lose them.
Yeah, you would need to let it. Yeah.
Are you making a lighter? All right, so let's. There's an interesting debate going on right now about why Apple is down. There's some thought that perhaps they got hacked, but then there's a number of websites saying no, Apple didn't get hacked, it was just traffic. What's interesting is you don't expect Apple's website to go down on a day like this. If anybody would throw more bandwidth on a site on an announcement day, it would be Apple. So it is not a good thing that Apple's website has been up and down.
Time to upgrade from GeoCities, I think.
It doesn't seem like the announcement was big enough that would
Why would this
be of all of the
so
ones?
Much traffic? Yeah, I liked Oliver Breidenbach was here from Boeing Software. He had the theory that perhaps as part of the launch of iCloud, they were maybe making some switches in the servers, and that was what was going on. But Akamai, I don't know.
Akamai is totally capable of, I mean, I cannot imagine
bring them down.
that you could bring them down. I don't know it's possible.
Yeah, and Gizmodo's reporting, no, they weren't brought down, and something else was going on. Apple was not hacked, says Gizmodo. Of course, we're all a little bit gun-shy these days with all the hacking that's been going on from Lulzsec and Anonymous. The Internet uses something called... I can't believe I'm going to read this story from Gizmodo. By the way, the Gizmodo site is also very, very slow right now, so I give up. I give up.
Apple has brought down the Internet.
I give up.
4% chance it's the end of days, though.
Could be. Could be. Those horsemen are coming. The Internet uses something. This is so slow. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We hope you will come back again. If you want to see the details of the announcement this morning as they unfolded, we just go to our Twit Specials feed. We have a special broadcast with a great crew, including Tom Merritt, Sarah Lane, Andy, and Alex, as well as Tim from App Advice. Thank you. Sorry, Tim. Tim Cheatham of Cheatham, right? Chatham? Whatever. Just go to appadvice.com. They're still up, by the way. Also, Oliver Breidenbach of Boeing Software and G. McDonald of Smile. That is on our Twit Specials feed. Thank you for joining us for MacBreak Weekly. We will be back next Tuesday. Maybe we'll even know a little bit more about this Siri fella. Meanwhile, get back to work because break time is over.